Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing fine. And guess what? We are going to continue our discussion on our unit first teaching aptitude, right? And today we're going to talk about factors affecting teaching. So let me come to the first point, which is factors affecting teaching related to teacher, right? Teaching isn't just a job, right? It's a journey that's greatly influenced by a bunch of factors, especially the teacher, right? So think of teachers as the superpower of the classroom, guiding, inspiring, and making learning a thrilling adventure. They are the ones turning the cogs in the big machine of education. First off, a teacher's knowledge is like their superpower, right? It's not just about knowing the textbook stuff, but understanding how to get these ideas across the students. Imagine a history teacher who not only knows all about the world wars, but can also make you feel like you're right there in the trenches. Sometimes teachers have to teach subjects they're not experts in, right? And that's when their dedication shines. They dive into the subject, learning alongside with their students, making the journey a shared experience. Then there's the art of teaching itself, right? Some teachers just have that magic touch, right? They know how to connect with the students, explain things in a way that makes sense, and manage the classroom like a pro. You might remember a teacher who could take a boring topic and turned it into the most exciting thing ever, right? Or that one who could manage the rowdiest of classes with just a look. So a teacher's qualification also play a big role. Those extra years of studying not only load them with the knowledge but also with new ways to teach. Think about the difference between a teacher who's fresh out of college and the ones who's been learning and teaching for years. So the seasoned teacher has a toolbox of techniques and wisdom that only comes with time and study. So, experience is a kind of biggie here. It's one thing to know your stuff, but another to know how to share it with a classroom full of diverse minds, right? Experienced teachers are like seasoned sailors navigating through the stormy seas of education. They have seen it all, right? The eager learners, the daydreamers, the challenging questions, and they handle it with kind of ease, right? And personality and behavior are also huge. So, ever had a teacher whose smile or encouragement made your day? That's the kind of impact we are talking about. These teachers become role models, right? Inspiring students to not just learn, but to be better people. And teachers also need a variety of competency, right? It's like being a jack of all trades. Some are great managers, right? Creating a structured and efficient learning environment. Others are like caring mentor, supporting students through their educational and personal challenges. Then there are the lifelong learners, always curious, always growing, and setting an example for students to follow. And let's not forget the teachers who are cultural and civic beacons, right? Connecting classroom lessons to the real world and encouraging students to be active, informed citizens, right? And lastly, there's this magic, ingredient, which is enthusiasm. A teacher's excitement is contagious. It can turn a dull lesson into an adventurous, right? And remember the science teacher who made you see the wonder in every experiment? Or the literature teacher who could make you feel the emotions in every poem? That's the kind of teaching that sticks with you for life, right? So, in a nutshell, teaching is shaped by a whole array of factors. So, with the teacher at the heart, right? And it's a mix of knowledge, skill, experience, personality, and passion. The best teachers make the journey of learning an unforgettable adventure, leaving impressions that last a lifelong. Right now, next we're going to talk about factors affecting teaching. Remember the word related to learner or student, right? So, think about it like this: we all have different skills, right? And ways of doing things. In learning, it's the same. Some people are great at remembering facts or solving math problems, while others are super creative or good at understanding complex concepts. Right? It's like being at a buffet and knowing exactly what you like and what you don't. For instance, one student might be amazing at writing essays but struggles with math problems. It's all about using what you're good at, finding ways to work on the areas that are challenging. Learning isn't just something that happens, right? It's a skill, like riding a bike or cooking your favorite meal. You get better at it over time, but it takes practice and sometimes a bit of trial and error. Right. Now let me tell you about the genetics and epigenetics. Right. So did you know that some parts of how we learn are actually wired in our DNA? It's like inheriting your grandma's blue eyes or your dad's sense of humor. However, it's not just about genetics. There's this thing called epigenetics, right? It's like a switchboard that turns certain, genes on and off based on what we experience in life. Imagine if listening to a classical music suddenly make you, better at math. That's the kind of how epigenetics can work. So two students might have the same potential for learning, but their experiences and environment might switch on different learning genes, right? Next, we're going to talk about socio-economic and physical conditions, right? Very important. Like imagine trying to study in a room that's too hot or too cold. Or if you're really hungry, it's tough, right? That's why things like good nutrition, a comfortable study space, and being physically healthy are super important. Think of a student who's always sleepy in class because they didn't get enough to eat for breakfast, or their learning is going to be affected, right? And good lighting, quiet spaces, and a comfy chair can make a huge difference. It's like having the right gear for a hike. It makes the journey easier and more enjoyable, right? Then we have like psychological and mental state. So our mind play a huge role in how we learn, right? If you're curious and excited about a topic, you're going to learn it better than something you find boring or pointless, right? Remember how you learned all the names of your favorite superhero characters without even trying? That's because you were interested, right? But if you're just memorizing facts for a test, it's like stuffing a suitcase. It's full, but you can't find anything, right? So, active learning, where you engage with the material, like doing experiments and relating it to real life. And that helps you to understand and remember things better. Also, how you feel about yourself and your learning matters, right? If a teacher always criticize you, you might start thinking you're not good at learning. But if they encourage you, you'll feel more confident and eventually do better, right? And then interest, attention, and enthusiasm, quite important. Like everyone's is interested in different things, right? It's like having a favorite ice cream flavor. Some students love story, some students love history, while others might find it as exciting as watching paint dry. Right? So, teachers need to find ways to make learning engaging for everyone, which can be tricky. It's like a chef trying to make a meal that everyone at the table will learn. If you're interested in what you're learning, you'll pay more attention, be more enthusiastic, and learn better. Then we have teaching and learning style. Well, just like everyone has their favorite way of doing things, learners have styles too. Some people learn best by seeing, like reading or looking at diagram. Others by listening, like a lecture, right? And some by doing, like in labs or workshops. It's like if you're cooking, some people follow a recipe book, others watch cooking shows, and some just experiment with ingredients. Teachers need to mix and match their learning styles to cater to everyone's learning styles in the classroom. Right. And age and maturity also play like a huge role. You know why? As we grow up, our brains develop and we can understand more complex stuff. It's like how little kids are great at learning language but might struggle with abstract concepts like algebra. As we get older, our capacity to learn different things changes. Think of teenager learning to drive. They're at the right age to understand the rules of the road and how to operate a car, which might be too complex for a younger child. Right? And then learners, types, and diversity. Finally, remember that every classroom is like a mini world, full of diverse people with different backgrounds, abilities, and challenges. Some might have a hard time seeing or hearing, which can make learning tougher, right? Others might come from different cultural backgrounds and see the world differently. It's like a team where everyone has a unique role to play, and understanding these differences can make learning more effective for everyone. So, guys, in a nutshell, teaching and learning are like a complex dance, right? Where both the teacher and the learner have to find the right rhythm and steps to make it work, right? It's about understanding and adapting to all these different factors to make the learning experience as effective and enjoyable as possible. Right, next we're going to talk about another important factors that affect teaching, which is support material. Right, so when we talk about learning, it's not just about what's written in the textbooks, right? Think about those YouTube videos that suddenly make a complex topic seem easy, or those cool worksheets that let you practice what you have learned in class. There are examples of learning materials and they can really boost how much students understand and retain. It's like when you watch a how to video to fix something at home. It often makes more sense than just reading the instructions, right? So now imagine you're in a classroom and the teacher is trying to explain a new concept. It might be something as tricky as quantum physics or as creative as poetry analysis. Here's where instructional material come into play. They are like the teacher's toolkit to make lessons clearer and more engaging. For instance, using a model or a simple experiment can make understanding the laws of physics much easier than just hearing about them. It's similar to cooking by following a video recipe rather than just reading it from a book. The visual cues make a huge difference. Right. And teachers aren't just there to lecture, they're more like guides on your learning journey. Support systems for teachers like various teaching aids, and like help them figure out what works best for their students. For example, if a class is really into tech, a teacher might use apps or digital games to teach, right? Or if a student is falling behind in math, the teachers might use some special math puzzles to help them catch up. Right? So, using these materials isn't just about making the class more interesting, it's about understanding each student's needs and finding ways to help them learn better. It's like a coach using different training methods to help athletes to improve their performance. With these tools, teachers can tailor their teaching methods and make lessons more effective and fun. Assessments and scores are also kind of part of this. Teachers can use creative ways to test what you have learned, right? Like projects or presentations instead of just written tests. This way, you're not just cramming for exam, you're really understanding and applying what you have learned. And let's not forget the fun factor, learning through games, right? Interactive activities or even educational trips makes the whole experience kind of enjoyable. It's like learning how to play a guitar by jamming with friends rather than just practicing alone, with a book. So, in the end, it's all about making learning a lively, engaging, and effective process, whether it's through high tech gadgets or simple hands on activities, right? So these support materials are there to help you learn better and enjoy the journey. It's like having a personal toolbox for your brain filled with all sorts of interesting and helpful gadgets. Next, we're going to talk about factors affecting teaching related to instructional facilities, right? So imagine you're in a classroom and the teacher is trying to explain a complex concept like, photosynthesis or algebra. It can be tough to grasp by just listening, right? That's where learning materials come into play. Think of them like a helping hand that guides you through the learning process. For instance, a well made educational video could take you on a virtual journey inside a leaf, right? Showing how photosynthesis actually happens. It's like having a front row seat to a microscopic world, making the concept not just understandable but also fascinating. Now let's talk about worksheets and activities. Remember those time, when you learned something new in a class but really got the hang of it only when you did that fun worksheet or a group activity. That's the magic of instructional material. They create a vibrant and engaging environment that encourages you to explore and learn. It's not just about reading a textbook, it's about interacting with what you are learning. Like when a math teacher uses colorful blocks to explain fraction, it suddenly makes more sense because you can see and touch the examples, right? And teachers also get a big boost from these resources. They have access to various tools that help them refine their teaching methods. For instance, a teacher might notice that the students are struggling with a particular chapter in history. So, by using documentary or historical novel as a support material, they can make the subject more relatable and interesting. Maybe they show a film set in the same era and suddenly history comes alive for the students, right? It's no longer just dates and events, story about real people, right? So these teaching aids aren't just for show, they have a practical side too, right? They help in assessing how well you're doing in class. Let's say there is an online quiz with instant feedback. It's not only tells you, right, what you got wrong, but also explains why, helping you learn from your mistakes on the spot. Or consider a science project where you build a model of volcano. It's not just about watching it erupt. It's a hands-on way to understand geological processes, and it definitely sticks in your memory longer. Support material in a teaching are like a toolbox. Each tool has its purpose, from lesson plans that guide the teacher on how to deliver a lesson effectively to benchmark that help measure your progress, right? To ensure that learning isn't just about memorizing facts, it's about developing critical and creative thinking. It's about making learning fun and increasing your motivation to dive deeper into subjects. Right. So, in summary, these materials aren't just adds on, they are essential components of the learning experience. They transform a classroom from a place where you passively receive information to an interactive space where you actively engage with knowledge. It's about making learning not just educational but also enjoyable and memorable. Right. Now, next, we're going to talk about factors affecting teaching related to learning environment. And why this is important, I'll tell you, right? So creating a great learning environment is super important for both teachers and students. Think of it as the place where the magic of learning happens. Classrooms are more than just rooms with desks and chairs. They are where students grow and learn, right? So, how the classroom feels and works can really make a difference in learning. Let's start with how teachers, understand their students. It's like having a coach who not only trains you but also gets your struggles and cheers for your wins. When students know their teacher has their back, they are more likely to ask questions, right? Make mistakes and try to learn new stuff. It's awesome when a teacher doesn't just talk at you but gets to know what you're good at and what you find tough, right? Plus, when teachers show they can mess up and laugh it off, it sets a chill vibe where everyone feels okay to be imperfect, right? Now, let's talk about how students getting along with each other can change the game. Imagine a classroom where everyone trusts each other, right? Kind of like a team. This trust can make learning more enjoyable and effective. Think about a class where you share inside jokes, celebrate weird traditions, or even have a class pet. These things bond you, right. When students like hanging out together, they feel safe and accepted, which is super important for learning. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows, right? A bad learning environment can really throw things off. If a classroom feels negative or stressful, it can lead to students not doing right as well as acting out or even feeling anxious or down. That's why it's key to keep the vibe positive and make sure everyone feels comfortable and ready to learn. Right? So, creative a positive environment isn't just about being happy all the time, right? It's about building a space where knowledge grows in a friendly and supportive way. It's like planting a garden. You want to give each plant or student the right amount of sun and water, like a support and tension to help them grow, right? It's about extending what kids already know and linking it to a new stuff they are learning. Like if you're learning about plants, why not start a little garden in the classroom? It makes the lesson more real and fun, right? So, in short, a good learning environment is where everyone, like teachers, students, feels comfortable, supported, and ready to take on new challenges. It's about making the classroom a place where learning is not about just books and lectures, but about growing, exploring, and even having a bit of fun along the way. Now, let me tell you another important factors related to school and institution. So, when we think about schools and educational institutes, they're not just buildings with classroom, right? They are like a second home where kids spend a lot of time in learning and growing up. Parents always hope that their kids get the best education possible, not just for book smarts, but also for life lessons, right? Think about it. Schools play a huge part in our lives. In many places, people don't have easy access to education. So schools become even more important. They don't just teach math and science, they also show us how to be good members of society. It's like they give us the tools we need to chase our dreams and contribute positively to our community. The goals and values that the schools stand for can really shape who we become. Let's not forget how schools help us to figure out what we want to be, when we grow up. They throw a bunch of information at us about different careers and life skills, and we get to pick what suits us best, right? Now, what makes a school really good? Think of that one teacher who always encouraged you, who believed in you even when you didn't. That's the kind of people good schools have, right? For example, imagine a school where every teacher thinks every student can achieve big things. So, this mindset can create such a positive vibe in the classroom. And it's not just about the teachers. So, ever had a super helpful librarian or a friendly janitor? Those support staff also make a huge difference, right? Safety, another is big thing, right? Schools need to be places where everyone feels safe to learn and express themselves. And let's be honest, nobody can focus in a messy or noisy classroom, right? So, a clean, well kept school is a way, more inviting. Regular check ins on how teaching and learning are going can help schools stay on top of their game. Think about a time when your class had a project and the teacher kept guiding and checking in. That kind of attention can really help everyone do their best. Lastly, good communication is key. Remember group projects, right? When everyone talked and worked together, things just went smoother, right? So the same goes for teachers. When they collaborate and share ideas, it makes the whole learning experience better for everyone. So, in a nutshell, schools are a lot more than just a place to learn ABC, right? Or 1, 2, 3. They are where we start understanding the world, figure out our interest, and learn how to be our best selves. It's all about having the right people, a safe environment, and a culture of teamwork and growth. So that's all for today. In our next session, we're going to talk about methods of teaching and learning. Quite important session that you should not miss. So I'll see you in our next session.